Joining the team captains is the Prime Minister of Canada, le Premier Ministre du Canada, Mark Carney, and the CEO of Coinbase Canada, Lucas Matheson.
Mr. Prime Minister, would you do us the honor? Tails has been called. This is a tails. Saskatchewan has won the toss.
Glorious.
Smithers, are they booing me?
No, they're saying Boo Earns. Boo Earns.
Are you saying boo or boo earns? I was saying boo earns.
The liberal at the end there, man. All right. That was the Grey Cup. Carney got booed by all the people in the stadium. So I just wanted to show that as the intro. And welcome to the Shane Holloway Show. My name's Shane Holloway, obviously. And first up, I wanted to show some of the civil unrest going around the world. We have Bangladesh. And here's some of the clips. See here, there's a van on fire. It's people protesting. I don't know if this is music or copyright. I'm just going to turn out the music for now. But you can see there's a bunch of people protesting.
দর্শক এই মুহূর্তে আপনারা দেখতে পাচ্ছেন যে এনসিপির কার্যালয়ের সামনে এই মুহূর্তে আবারও বক্সের বিস্ফোরণ এবং ছাত্র জনতা কিন্তু এই মুহূর্তে ধাওয়া দিয়েছে।
I don't know if that's music either. This is crazy though. There's other clips too. So I got massive arson rioting in Bangladesh. Meanwhile, a chopper is ready at Dhaka airport for UNOS in case tensions spread. So I'm guessing this is the cops trying to break up the rioters. Yeah, it looks like it.
স্কিন শুষ্ক রুক্ষ হয়ে যাবে বলে কি
This is the news. Someone recorded it and put it on X. I think. Looks like an independent news reporter. Or a citizen journalist or something. Alright, so let's see what happens to him. Oh, nothing. Alright, so this is major clashes continuing in Dhaka, Bangladesh. UNO is unable to control the situation on the ground as the country slips into chaos and more violence. Police reportedly also using tear gas and firing.
রণক্ষেত্রে পরিণত হয়েছে ধানমন্ডি 32। পুলিশের বাধা এই মুহূর্তে অতিক্রম করে ছাত্র জনতা যারা রয়েছে তারা এগিয়ে যাচ্ছে এবং আবারও একের পর এক সাউন্ড গ্রেনেড ছোড়া হচ্ছে।
That looks so intense.
আবারও রণক্ষেত্রে পরিণত হয়েছে ধানমন্ডি 32। আপনাদেরকে দেখানোর চেষ্টা
I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. I think we've seen this. So I think the cops kind of regained control afterwards by the looks of it. But I'm sure there's still a lot of civil unrest. Our next story is about COP30, which is the climate summit in Brazil. And we have
Indigenous protesters blocked the main entrance of the COP30 climate summit in Brazil.
So this is a bunch of indigenous Brazilian people, like people who live in the rainforest, basically, or near the rainforest. They come to protest the climate summit. I think that whatever policies the people at the climate summit are trying to force on them, they don't like them.
Friday, forcing delegates of the United Nations-backed event to use side entrances for an hour and a half. Traditionally dressed, the Manduruku group was calling for more recognition of indigenous voices in the climate negotiations and for an end to logging, mining, and other development projects in the Amazon.
When the river gets dry, the ones who suffer are us.
They also demanded a meeting with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva.
We will stay until the president solves our problem. They deforested everything, and now we're under the scorching sun. While he negotiates with the AC inside the house, we stay here suffering under the scorching sun.
Friday's demonstration was peaceful, but it followed an incident on Tuesday where indigenous protesters forced their way into the COP30 venue, clashing with security personnel.
We don't eat money. We want our territory free. But the business of oil exploration, mineral exploration, and logging continues.
Friday's protests eventually ended after conference president André Corsia do Lago had a lengthy but seemingly amicable discussion with the group outside, cradling the baby of one of the protesters.
All right, so that was PBS News reporting on it. This one is Reuters. Thousands of climate activists demand climate justice and territorial protection at COP30.
We're here today at the Global Climate March. Women, youths, indigenous peoples, riverine communities, and quilombolas are united to demand social justice and the demarcation of indigenous lands. Our land and our forest are not commodities. Respect nature and the peoples who live in the forest. Demarcation now.
So that's the COP30 there. Next up, we have a lot of civil unrest in New Mexico. And this is someone's take on it. I don't know if this is actually what happened, but you can see here that there are some far-right radical people at the event.
Very important question. Does Mexico have a Nazi problem? So over the last couple of days, we've seen protests erupt in Mexico City, and some protesters are even wearing Nazi swastika shirts. Others have spray painted on the walls, puta judía, which means Jewish bitch. This really points out the canary in the coal mine of this ideological subversion against Jews here. We can see that a president who has some Jewish heritage, Claudia Sheinbaum, who doesn't even really identify as a Jew and definitely doesn't support Israel, even she can be blamed for what is going on in her country, especially by these Gen Z-led protests. And this is really scary because it points out how this ideological subversion and Jew hate can be used to scapegoat anyone, including presidents of Western countries who do not support Israel and don't even really identify as Jewish. Very important question.
So that's a Jewish man on his take on it. I've seen pictures of Sheinbaum. She's definitely a leftist, but there's pictures of her with a Christian cross on and stuff. So I don't think she's actually like I think she's ethnically Jewish, but I think she believes in Christ and stuff. So I don't know. There's a lot of civil unrest that happened. Some of it's probably like called for, and other stuff is probably not called for. So I'm not sure. You can see that it's a massive anti-corruption protest, they're calling it, are taking place in front of Mexico's National Palace in Mexico City, largely in response to central cartel murder of Mayor Carlos Manzo in Uruapan, with violence already having erupted as demonstrators attempted to breach barricades and police lines around the palace, many calling for the resignation of President Claudia Sheinbaum. So you can see, I think this is where they got in through this wall right here. And if we go back, this is kind of like when the gas is being shot out. You can see everyone backing away from the gas. This is the cops here. Actually, this might be where the cops are coming out. They might have came in through over here somewhere. Yeah, they probably came from this way somewhere. So I think there's another video here too. They're pushing the barricades back. Now, this one is at least 120 people, including 100 officers, were injured during the intense clashes in Mexico City on Saturday as thousands of protesters rousing violent crime and President Claudia Sheinbaum handling of national security. Gen Z-led anti-government protests erupt in Mexico City. So we've seen one in Chile too, which led to an election today because the government collapsed. You see, that's the palace they're protecting.
At least 120 people, including 100 police officers, were injured during intense anti-government clashes in Mexico City on Saturday. Thousands of Gen Z-led protesters hit the streets, angered by rising violent crime and President Claudia Sheinbaum's handling of national security. Demonstrators dismantled parts of the barrier near the National Palace, prompting police to fire tear gas. 20 people were arrested for robbery, assault, and other offenses. The protests were fueled by recent high-profile killings, including the assassination of Uruapan Mayor Carlos Manzo. Sheinbaum blamed right-wing groups for funding the unrest, while protesters accused the government of failing to stop cartel violence. Despite growing criticism over security, Sheinbaum's approval rating remains high.
So I think this guy is going to talk about the mayor's assassination a little bit further. It sparked the Gen Z uprising and the murder of Mayor Carlos Manzo at a Day of the Dead festival ignited nationwide protests. Mexico now faced wrecking over cartel violence and failed security policy. Oops.
Mexico City erupted, over 120 injured, but this wasn't random. It started with 7 bullets at a festival. On November 1st, Mayor Carlos Manzo attended a Day of the Dead celebration in Uruapan with his family. At 8:10 p.m., a 17-year-old assassin shot him 7 times, 3 in the back, killing him in front of his son. He was 40 years old. But the question remains, why was he targeted? Manzo openly challenged President Sheinbaum's hugs, no bullets, cartel policy, declaring there can be no hugs for criminals. He authorized deadly forces against cartel members and demanded military-grade weapons for police. 2 weeks later, Gen Z
I gotta be careful because
protest. In Mexico
there's music in here.
City, thousands stormed the National Palace. RIOTS police deployed tear gas. Metal barriers torn down. Over 120 injured, hundreds of them police officers. 40 hospitalized, 20 arrested. Protesters chanted, "This is how you should have protected Carlos Manzo." His widow now serves as a mayor, vowing to continue his fight. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And for more
All right, so I think I have The recent assassination, blah, blah, blah. I think we already went through all this. I just want to show this video. This is Shine Bomb without security. And then this one is Mexico City protests are happening because President Claudia Sheinbaum works for the cartel. This is someone else's point of view. A senator from Mexico went on Fox News and exposed it all. The president of Mexico works for the cartels. She was funded by money from cartels. Not just the president. There are entire groups of Mexico politicians labeled the narco politicians. Mexico's a narco-state. Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels. The Morena political party is financed by the cartels, and that's how they get elected. Once they get elected, the deal is for the Mexican government to then protect the cartels. The president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo, doesn't want this information getting out. Mexicans and the politicians who are not paid off by the cartels want Donald Trump to help with the cartels. The Mexican senator exposes all this. It says, exposing all this, she's now being threatened with prison for speaking out. The president has threatened me to proceed against me with criminal prosecution to get me out of the Senate and get me in jail just because I told you in this space in Fox News. And now the assassination of European Mayor Carlos Manzo, an own cartel critic. The cartel runs the Mexican government.
She's calling Mexican Senator Lily Tellez a traitor for coming on Fox Noticias with me a few days ago and saying this. Listen.
The help from the United States to fight the cartels in Mexico is absolutely welcome, and that is how the majority of Mexicans feel. The only ones who don't like that President Trump is sending help and trying to support Mexicans against the cartels are the narco politicians. That includes President Sheinbaum.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responding, saying, quote, "It's not a minor issue that a senator gave an interview to a foreign media outlet calling for intervention." Here to discuss is that Mexican Senator Lily Tellez. Senator Tellez, welcome to Fox Noticias. I'm just going to get right to it. Is Mexico a narco state?
Yes, it is. And we all Mexicans know about it. And Mexicans are afraid of the alliance between the Mexican government and the cartels that have infested our nation.
So you can see these are different cartels. The Cancun Sinaloa cartel, it owns here and all these. And then the Juarez cartel owns this part. The Tijuana cartel owns this part. The Jalisco New Generation owns this part. Beltran Alepia organization owns this part. Puerto Vallarta owns this part. All this right here. And I guess Cancun actually owns all this too. And right here. And this is the Gulf Cartel. And this is Los Zetas. They own this part.
Can you explain this alliance between the president, her party, the Morena party, and the cartels?
Yes, the party has financed, has given, the cartels have given so much money to these politicians, narco politicians of Morena, to get into office, to get the power. So they protect, the Mexican government protects the cartels. That is why President Sheinbaum doesn't want the strong American leadership to help Mexico defeat the cartels. And also Sheinbaum doesn't want the rest of the world to know what is happening here in Mexico. We are on the steps to be the next Venezuela. She is aligned with Venezuela's dictator, with Cuba, and we are losing our country. They have destroyed our Republican institutions, the democratic state, and we must, I think we all Mexicans want and welcome the support of the United States to assist Mexican people against the cartels that have us all in this crisis with the traffic in fentanyl and migrants.
So her response to this, and I know this because her spokesperson came on our show in response to your interview, and they say, well, we just turned over 26 cartel members. We're working, we're sharing intelligence. What are they not doing? And why is she so resistant? She sort of speaks out of two sides of her mouth. We're working with you, Trump, and then she's chastising you for saying we need more help from the United States to crush the cartels.
Because she really doesn't want the help of the United States. She is lying to Mexican people, telling Mexican people that the United States will get in control of the whole country. Right. I never listened such nonsense from President Trump. What we have listened is that President Trump wants to help Mexican people against the cartels. Mexican people are suffering. So what they do is very, very little. We have huge narco politicians here in the Senate, in the presidents, governors. Mexico is a very dangerous place.
Well, that brings me to my next question, because you are speaking very bluntly, very clearly about Mexico being a narco state and the alliance and the connections to the president of Mexico. Are you afraid for your life?
Yes, I am afraid. And the president has threatened me to proceed against me with criminal prosecution, to get me out of the Senate and get me in jail, just because I told you in this space and Fox News what is the reality of our country with the cartels. The cartels are dominating everything here in Mexico. They are in all the offices of the government, in the states, in the cities, and in the national government. So, of course, I am afraid, but I want people to know I will not step back. And I pray under God's guidance that we, the United States and Mexico, must work together to defeat the cartels and to get freedom for our country, for Mexico, to stop it from being the next Venezuela.
Senator Lily Reyes, a very brave woman indeed. Thank you so much for coming on our show and speaking the truth.
So I thought that was really well said. I didn't know what else to add there because it's actually crazy what's going on. Next up, even crazier story, what's going on here in Canada. So this one was from about April 2025. The UN just dubbed the Liberals' foreign worker program a breeding ground for slavery that harms local Canadians. Big corporations and the Mark Carney Trudeau Liberal government tried to convince us it was racist to criticize their exploitation, though. So you can see here, Canada's temporary foreign worker program, a breeding ground for modern slavery, UN report concludes. And they asked people from 12 different countries, and they were being sexually exploited and used and paid low wages and all kinds of stuff. And the program is under scrutiny over increasing use to fill low-wage positions, while experts question the growing reliance on foreign workers as unemployment rises. So this is actually a report from about a year ago, and it's going to tie into what's happening now.
Moving to North America, a bombshell report by the United Nations has slammed Canada for being a breeding ground for modern-day slavery. The report says Canada's temporary foreign worker program favors employers and locks migrants into debt bondage. The Canadian scheme lets companies control the workers' housing, healthcare, and migration status, preventing them from seeking better-paying jobs in the country. Here's our report with more details about Canada's flawed migrant worker program.
The exploitative practice of slavery has been abolished across the world over the past 2 centuries.
Ridiculous.
Still, the dehumanizing trade exists in one form or the other, ranging from forced labor to debt bondage to sex trafficking. And one of the many countries harboring this extreme form of oppression is Canada. United Nations investigator Tomoya Obokata has published explosive details about the discriminatory practices and deep power imbalances in Canada that favor companies and prevents employees from exercising their rights. Obokata claims Canada's reliance on temporary foreign workers is breeding ground for modern-day slavery. Canada has a program for non-Canadians that brings them to the country to work on a temporary basis. This was initially meant to fill labor shortages, but has grown dramatically over the years. The program is now under fire for suppressing wages and leaving workers vulnerable to abuse. To study this decades-old program closely, the UN Special Investigator toured Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and Moncton. He found that employers across Canada heavily rely...
I don't know who made this map, but Moncton is not in Newfoundland. Moncton's down here somewhere.
he
What's going on in Newfoundland too?
found that employers across Canada heavily rely on workers from Mexico, Guatemala, and Jamaica. These workers mostly work in agriculture, fast food, healthcare, and construction sectors and are often locked in debt bondage. They borrow money to participate in the program and depend on their Canadian wages to repay accrued debts. The program also ties the work permits of these migrants to a specific employer, and that employer controls the workers' housing, healthcare, and migration status. So if the workers are fired, they may be deported back to their home countries. This prevents them from seeking better paying jobs in Canada. Opakata's report further alleges that foreign workers experience a wide range of abuses in the country. This includes physical and emotional abuse, racism, hazardous work conditions, long hours, limited breaks, wage theft, and even sexual harassment. Meanwhile, the Canadian police
It sounds like when I grew up working in Canada.
has failed to take these complaints seriously and reports these workers to immigration authorities rather than probing the matter. Canada's Immigration Minister Mark Miller has responded to this UN report, saying the worker program is not fatally flawed but needs to be reformed, although he called the slavery characterization inflammatory. Last year, Canada approved over 230,000 temporary foreign workers into the country, which was more than double that it hired in 2018. And now, with the United Nations recommending a permanent residence to these workers as the only way to avoid the contemporary forms of slavery, Canada has to take action to stop the abuse now.
All right, so that was a year ago. Okay. Now listen to this Indian Punjabi talk radio show in Canada. Casually says that a pizza shop owner he knows sold 39 LMIAs, international worker permits, at $40,000 each, and paid workers $44 an hour. Our country is absolutely pillaged.
Small business na bada ਘਾਟੇ ਚ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਮੈਂ ਨਾ ਕੱਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ
So he says,
small business na bada ਘਾਟੇ ਚ small
he says, hello, good morning. Look, small businesses
bada ਘਾਟੇ ਚ ਚੱਲ
are running at a huge
ਮੈਂ
loss.
ਨਾ ਕੱਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ
I don't even remember our big pizza store coming.
ਉਹਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੈਂਦਾ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ
That guy
ਉਹ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਵਿਚਾਰੇ ਨੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਰੱਖੇ ਨੇ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬੜਾ
hired poor students and said, I feel sorry for them.
ਤਰਸ ਆਉਂਦਾ $4 ਤੇ
They hired them for $4 each. And he said that. Or but he said that.
ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ
He also said that I had to sell 39
ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ
LMIAs.
39 LMIA ਵੇਚਣੀਆਂ ਪਈਆਂ
Then I went somewhere and got my
ਇਹ
business
ਜਾ ਕੇ ਕਿਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਸਕਸੈਸਫੁਲ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ
and said that my LMIA is not selling anymore.
30,000 ਤੋਂ ਡਾਲਰ ਤੋਂ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਵੱਧ ਵੇਚ
Then $30,000 to $40,000.
ਮੇਰੀ LMI ਹੈ ਨਾ ਦੇਖ ਲਓ 39 LMIਆਂ ਵੇਚ
He sold 39 LMIs or LMIAs. Now look,
ਫੇਰ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਆਪੇ ਤੇਜ਼ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੁਣ ਦੇਖੋ ਜੀ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ
now you can believe this.
ਮੰਨਣਾ ਪਊ ਇਹ ਜੰਗਲ ਰਾਜ ਆ
This is a jungle state. Canada is not here. Now it can come on track.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਲੀਹ ਤੇ ਆ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਗੋਲੀਆਂ ਗਾਲੀਆਂ
Now even bullets will be used. Even Robin Hood,
ਰੋਬਿਨ ਹੁੱਡ ਵੀ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ
the golden bird that was
ਇਹ ਗੰਦ ਪੈ ਗਿਆ ਹੁਣ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਨੇਪਿਆ ਜੀ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੋਨੇ ਦੀ ਚਿੜੀ ਸੀ
led by him.
ਉਹ ਚਾਂਦੀ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਪਿੱਤਲ ਦੀ ਵੀ
I don't even think of it as silver. Hello?
ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਰਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ
I don't know what that means, but you get the point. It's still going on. Now, even more news in Canada. We're talking about MAID. So, this is one of our politicians, Garnet Jennis. He's a conservative, and he says, imagine serving your country in uniform, going to Veterans Affairs help, and being told that you should die instead. This isn't some fictional dystopia. This is this has happened in over 20 cases here in Canada since euthanasia MAID was legalized, and more veterans are afraid to speak out. This must be stopped. Great question from my colleague Blake Richards, MP.
In a short period of time, and I don't even know where to start, but I think what I would like to do is maybe I'll start with you, if I can call you Kelsey. Kelsey, you made some allegations that would be pretty shocking, I think, to most people in this room. They weren't so much to me because I have heard from and of veterans who have been offered MAID in the last couple of years as well. Not to the extent that you have, clearly. You mentioned, I think you said that you've heard from 20, personally you've spoken to or know of 20 veterans who have been offered medical assistance in dying by Veterans Affairs. Did I hear that right?
We have 20 with written proof. We have more who have come forward with audio recordings. We have case managers from Veterans Affairs admitting it to me. We also have other individuals who are too afraid to come forward because Veterans Affairs has threatened their benefits. I know this because they've done it to me, so I believe them. And then we also have other individuals who have been offered NDAs and payouts if they were to take it.
Okay. These are, I mean, I've heard some of these same things. And I mean, it's often the case that people are afraid to speak out because they rely on Veterans Affairs. Even when they can't get all the help they need, there may be something they're receiving, and they're afraid for the loss of that. And I understand that, and that's a problem as well, obviously. Is there anything that you can provide this committee with in terms of something to substantiate some of these things? Obviously, I believe you, but is there something we can do to substantiate those that you could provide this committee that would be helpful for us to be able to take action, or is it, again, something where people are afraid to be able to have it be public?
People are not just afraid for it to be public. They're afraid for their families, for their careers, and for those that are in the pro-death cult where they come out and speak that they don't want to be killed by MAID. They believe they should have access to proper health care, which every Canadian deserves the right to. So they said that they would speak out only if they went to America, and then they would speak with me if I went to America and interviewed them privately.
Understood.
All right. So next up we have this guy who does content for what looks like the High Wire, Camus. Medical assistance in dying MAID in Canada is no longer just about terminal illness. It has become a chilling national experiment where death is being offered as a substitute for care. The numbers are soaring, a 32.4% increase in 1 year, accounting for 10,000 deaths. Now the system is expanding to include those suffering solely from mental disorders. This is the harsh reality. A mother of 3, Rose Finley, is applying for MAID, not because she wants to die, but because she cannot get adequate personal care support to live a dignified life. Doctors confirm it. It is far quicker to get a lethal injection than to access specialized medical care. A patient in the middle of an active treatment was casually offered MAID by a family doctor. When people have suicidal ideations, the state's response is shifting from counseling and care to affirming the request to die. This sends a devastating message that suicide is an acceptable solution to suffering, directly contradicting what we tell our youth. Offering death to citizens in their most vulnerable moments is not compassion. It is a profound ethical failure. It reveals a system that is failing to provide the fundamentals of life, and instead is streamlining the path to death. The story from Canada is a stark warning to the world.
There's a story. Now, we're bordered by Canada, and so many of us, throughout COVID, we watched, how horrific it was to see a socialist nation. Something that we all thought was, oh, wow, and it's great. I mean, what's wrong with socialism? At least I used to think that. In fact, I even went to film school up in Vancouver, Canada, and just thought, wow, these are sweet people. They don't have to worry about paying for the medical bills. Maybe that makes people happier. And then COVID hit, and I personally was like, oh, my God. Socialism's terrifying. Well, it may have been terrifying during COVID. It may be terrifying to be forcing you to take a vaccine. It may be terrifying that they shut down your bank accounts if you decide to protest the government. I mean, that's some terrifying stuff. But nothing would be more terrifying if they start promoting the idea of assisted murder, killing you, your friends, someone's depressed, maybe even your child. Take a look at this.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau introduced legislation to legalize physician-assisted suicide.
It's a deeply personal issue that affects all of us in our families.
Some believe it is their only option.
No one should be faced with such an impossible choice.
Canada first introduced medical assistance in dying, or MAID, where medics can help people end their life, in 2016. At the time, it was only open to those whose natural death was reasonably foreseeable.
Last year, MAID accounted for 3.3% of all deaths in Canada, or 10,064 people. That's a 32.4% increase over the year before.
Opponents of MAID argue it's being used as an alternative to social or medical support. Ramona Coelho, a family doctor, says it's far quicker to get aid in dying than specialist care.
Mother of 3, Rose Finley, is applying for a medically assisted death. She filled out the forms and is counting down to the day she can access MAID. But what Finley says she really wants is access to services.
It's always been a challenge to find adequate personal care support.
The fact that people are feeling compelled to apply for MAID or to even ask about MAID because they can't get the basic fundamentals to live a life it's shameful.
In March, it's further expanding eligibility to include people with mental disorders. It's expected MAID will be about 4% of all deaths in this country.
When people have suicidal ideations, we used to meet them with counseling and care, and yet now we are seeing that as an appropriate request to die and ending their lives very quickly.
It sends a culturally and socially acceptable message that suicide is one option to end one's suffering, and that is contrary to our message that we're sending to our youth.
It seems to me that offering death to people in the moments of greatest vulnerability, fragility, is profoundly unethical. I have a patient, I'm in the middle of treatment, the middle of medication trials, and the family doctor came along and kindly, you know, from her perspective, offered MAID. The patient said, yeah, why don't I just die?
This is honestly one of the craziest stories.
Now, how are the Liberals, the current government, planning to fix this? Well, we're going to learn from the Champagne socialist. Minister Champagne himself says Canada's in a strong position to spend more. 25.5% can't afford groceries. 2.2 million rely on food banks. 50% are $200 from insolvency. The government might be financially stable. Canadians are on life support. Let's see what he says.
Back to the departments and ask for more cuts to get to the number you need.
Well, I think the colleagues and the country understood we needed to find savings. I think Canadians have been tightening their belt for quite some time, and if you want to be credible when you're saying you're going to make generational investments, you also have to have the discipline to look at how you can make government more efficient. What program can you streamline? How can you bring technology? How you can make sure that we deliver better services for Canadians? Those are tough decisions, but they are needed decisions. I think Canadian elected us with a strong mandate. The budget of today is an investment budget. You're going to see generational investments, ambitious in our investment, rigorous in our spending, and I think we're meeting the moment. Canadians have felt the world is changing. There's a lot of things going on. There's some headwinds, but Canada has a very strong fiscal position. We can make these investments at the time, being very rigorous in our spending.
Will there be Canadian families tonight who will be worrying about their welfare, that they will be losing their public service job after this, that there will be concerns like that?
Well, we are going to be very compassionate. Like I said, we need to bring back the civil service to a more sustainable level. There's been quite an increase since COVID and over the last few years, but we're going to be very compassionate, and most of that is going to be through normal attrition. We have a number of people who just retire normally in the normal course of business. So I think that people will be reassured in a way that we have made the right choices, that we're going to do that in a smart and compassionate way, preserving the key services that are dear to Canadians, and at the same time making sure that we become more efficient. There's a lot of things we can do, but overall, if you ask me, Canadians will feel good tonight. We're going to be okay as a country. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of concerns in families, on the shop floor, in the fields, but I would say tonight people will go to bed and say, we're going to be okay. Canada is a strong country. We have strong foundation, strong industry. This budget will really bring us forward as a nation, empower people. It's a pivotal moment, and I think Canadians are ready for that.
Yeah, so I don't believe a word he says. I'm not going to sleep any better tonight. I don't know about you guys, but thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, share, subscribe, and follow. And let me know what you think down below. Peace.